I'm joined in studio by Dr. Casper. Thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Casper, welcome to Africa Live.
Joining me now in the studio, we have Dr. Casper. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
I'm joined by the great Dr. Casper. Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm your host Rose Faith and I have Dr. Casper.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm well. Great to be here. Looking forward to hearing about what the topic is.
Amazing.
Yes.
Welcome so much everybody. This is the coaching sessions with Dr. Casper.
Yes.
And so today we have a very exciting topic. We're going to talk about the current generation, dating, technology, and how it affects long-lasting relationships.
Wow, okay, that's a lot. That's a mouthful. We'll see how it goes.
I know, and we have such a limited time. So our viewers, send those questions. Let us know what you would like us to discuss. And I'll get straight to the point.
Okay.
How do you think technology has affected our generation with relationship from your previous generation, where you find that our generation finds relationship more difficulty, or is it easier compared to your generation?
You know, one of the realities, right now when I teach, I'm normally, even at the college level, I have a lot of Gen Zs.
Yes.
Gen Y is already done with college. And what is very interesting is, this is actually a topic we were talking about in one of my classes, right? Which is what is unique about Gen Ys and Zs. One of the things you find is their relationships are within technology.
Yes.
And encompass technology so much, they may not be as effective on face-to-face communication. And number two, the Instagram, TikTok world has you play a character.
Yes.
So what you actually get into in these relationships and these DMs are all about false characters that people are creating.
It's a persona.
You create your persona and you're dating personas, right? You're dating like avatars. And a lot of these dating and relationships and back and forths have created people who are very individualistic, right? So there's a lot of individualism built into it, so people are very okay with being alone with technology.
Yes.
They think when they have technology, they are not alone.
Self-sufficient.
Yes.
Especially talking for the women, we have a lot of we're independent.
Yeah, and a lot of people are like, you know what? Actually, we're in the generation of not individuality, but also the generation of independent.
Yes.
And the challenge of being independent is, you say, I'm independent with one mind, and with another mind, you're crying for dependence.
Ouch.
Or interdependence.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. The reality is we are teaching people that, you know, maintain your individuality in a relationship or in a marriage. Maintain your unique self. You came as an individual, so why do you need to lose yourself in your marriage and all those good stuff, right? That's probably should be the topic on the video.
And actually, I had a question.
Yeah.
Funny you say that, because I had a question that I got from a read like, how do you maintain your individualism in a relationship?
There you go.
What?
Now, let's do this. I have to also put in that there are different worldviews.
Okay.
So I'm going to use a Christian worldview, and I'm going to also, let me just use that. And that's going to be a little bit different. And also, I'm using not a Western Christian worldview. I'm going to use a global center worldview. And global center, by global center, I mean sub-Saharan African worldview.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
So, and I come from the eastern part of the world. In terms of, I was born next to the Indian Ocean.
Yes.
Now, in the Western side, you maintain your individuality, you maintain yourself in the relationship, okay? From faith-based global centrist worldview, that is not a relationship. No. That is romantic, okay?
Oh, wow.
Now, the reason why is, in a global center perspective of relationship, you find your new self in the relationship. And so the two become one then they discover who am I now in this relationship. They're not fighting to be what they used to be. They are discovering who they have become, and they value that as being more important. It's about value systems.
So it's not, you don't see it as a loss, it's a gain.
So in the Western perspective, it's a loss.
Yes.
It's a loss for women.
Right.
It's a loss, all of the thing. In the global center perspective, it's a gain. So different worldviews of how they see life.
Yes.
And so mine is the global centrist, faith-based worldview. And what that means is, from an Eastern mind, I'm not losing anything. I'm actually finding my best self. And so I don't really want to be the guy I was when I was single, alone. That mindset is very dangerous. It leads to 50% plus one of divorce rates.
Why is that?
Because I'll use, for example, the idea of Casper the individual versus Casper the married person.
Okay.
When Casper got married, his individuality had to die. And I know a lot of people don't like that because we are a westernized world.
Yeah.
All right, we have to accept it. The whole world was colonized by Europeans. That's just reality. But I died so I can be born again into my marriage. When I'm born again into my marriage, we have become an entity together with my wife.
Yes.
So she is as much me as I am her.
Okay.
So I have to discover, who am I now, this new form? Because that's what allows me to be her husband. The reason why you see all these celebrities and all these people going through all these challenges is because they're still individuals. What they are is they're like business partners.
True.
And the best thing about business partnership is that it breaks up 60% of the time. Right? So what you end up realizing is that, I'll go with a faith-based example for those who will rhyme. It's kind of like saying that, you know what, I'm born again, I'm a Christian, but you know what, Jesus, please respect who I was. I came as an individual, okay? I came as an individual into this faith.
What?
I knew I was someone before I met you, God. So guess what? I'm gonna maintain me. But that's not what
Wait, what? I'm gonna wait. Go on, carry on.
Okay.
It's just, what?
Okay, because that's basically the mirror of the Eastern-minded marriage is Christ married the church.
When you say, like, I'm gonna maintain me, and you're telling God that.
That's it. That's it.
Wow.
So it's a very different value,
Okay.
right? So in my faith, I come to know myself and my new self in this faith. In my marriage, I get to know who I am. And guess what? I love who I am now than what I was before. I don't even want to be that guy. I don't want to be that single guy with that single mind. He was good when he was single.
Okay.
But he is not good as a father. He's not good as a husband because he puts number one himself and his needs.
Yes.
But that doesn't work in a relationship.
Oh, no.
The world wants to redefine relationship, right? That's why I said I have to differentiate between the world's view, the Western view, and what I consider the context of a marriage relationship. And so I know from pulpits to streets, everybody talks about these days, the cool thing is to maintain yourself. You came as an individual. And that's not saying that you are not a person. What that's saying is you are now a person, part of a person.
Yes.
So I always say, like, my joy is not complete if my wife's joy is not complete. And I know that my wife's joy is not going to be complete. See, there are things that you learn in marriage that are not really what your mind was maybe when you were single, because now you are part of an organism.
Yes.
Now, it used to be like that back in the day. This is why people used to have the same name. They used to have this thing because it was all about coming together. It wasn't only the individuals, by the way. In the Christian setting, it was two families.
Coming together.
Yeah. willing to die for each other, all these things. So, as you can see, I think in an individualistic world, I'm bringing that perspective of like, this is my Christian faith-based Eastern mind.
Okay.
And to be quite honest, Christianity was born in the East, not the West.
Oh, fun fact.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it saddens me, and I believe that is contributing to the highest rates of divorce that are rising every day. And it got into a point where divorce has become normal. Like, oh, I'm divorced, and it's a normal thing, and it's okay. And I'm like, when did we get there? When did we get to a point where just divorce is okay? I can walk out, I can walk in.
Yeah.
We are like, okay, if it doesn't work, I'm walking out. Our parents were like, we are in it to make it work. And do you think people are fighting to make it work, or why are they not? Is marriage not working?
Where's marriage not working? There are a lot of questions, a lot of answers rather, that can come out of that question. I think one of the core things is the normalization of something that was a stigma.
Yes.
In that divorce, separation was a stigma of failure. It was a stigma against society, right? You'll be ostracized. There were all these things. And so, of course, there were a lot of people who are stuck in bad situations.
Yeah.
So that was on one side. But that's not the whole story. There's also the other story that we are an Instagram microwave generation. And so when things don't work out, when things get hard, because we don't have community, we don't have support systems, what do? We run to counselors and psychologists. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the question is, do those psychologists and those counselors carry your worldview? Okay?
Yeah.
So what you have to do is, when you go through this, go to counseling and psychologists who hold the same worldviews as you.
Yes.
Why am I saying this? Because it will help you navigate the future that you want. All right? If you go to a counselor or psychologist whose worldview is, if you have problems, one way is just separation and divorce, that's what you're going to get as your solution for every issue. Right? Some things you just need to talk them out.
Yeah.
Some things you just got to walk through them. So I think one of the big things about the generation we are in, we don't have community as much, so we have to rely on strangers. And those strangers don't have any vested interest.
No.
They have no vested interest, right?
Because they actually don't even know you.
That's the
guys,
thing.
So.
And while it's easier to talk to somebody you don't know about your problems, and it's good, I think there's some value to it, I think that's part. Again, we are independent. Don't tell me what to do. I don't want to be under any covering generation. So that means I have no pastors over me who can talk into my life. I don't have any parental guidance. I don't have anything that can lead me. Okay? I don't have those, back in the day you had older couples. They may have not been your parents. They were kind of like a little bit older who could speak into your life.
I know.
But
I realized when my parents were getting married, the tradition back then was your best couple is they're married people who, according to how my mom explained it to me, is that your best couple should be married people and not single people, because they become your mentors. And I grew up seeing the parents who like were the best couples for mom and dad. They used to come home, they used to have moments together, go out for a lunch dinner or a lunch date or just
Yeah.
dinner date. And I'm like, oh, why is that? Why is that important? Because they are their mentors and they are people who know them and they're not biased. They can be like, okay, this is the case, this is what is going on, and analyze the situation and be
Yes.
like, with the scale and advise you accordingly.
Yeah.
But I feel like our generation is where, oh, my best friend is my best couple, let's do this, they're single, it doesn't matter. But there's no mentorship, and that has lost its value, which I feel it's a bit sad.
Yeah, and again, it goes down to individuality. Because some of those things you've talked about, it was the reason why those relationships lasted.
Yes.
I mean, to be quite honest, people might say, oh, it's just times and changes.
Yeah.
People can also say, you know what, people who are just in abusive relationships, there's some truth to that. But to be quite honest, the vast reason why those relationships lasted is because they had relationships. They had coupled relationships that were actually true.
Yes.
We are working 24/7. We have no time to meet with each other.
Yeah.
If we meet, we might meet once every 6 months. You have no idea what's going on in my life.
Wow.
We are fighting every day. We have issues, we have challenges, but we have nobody. That's how a lot of relationships are. Isolated incidents waiting to happen. And when you just take that example, you realize it's not that their marriages were easy. It's not that their marriages didn't have issues.
No.
It's not that their marriages did not have hardships. But every month they used to meet and talk about common issues. And sometimes things will become light because you realize, oh, they're going through it too. They're going through it too.
Yes.
Maybe we've overthought
We are
it.
not the
Maybe,
only one.
yeah, you know, and that kind of helps. That camaraderie or whatever they call it.
Ethics, pride and all.
Exactly. So again, I go back to some of those challenges with this generation. We are very independent.
Yeah.
We are very individualistic. We are driven by work. We are driven by being fake. We are driven, and so we don't have coupled relationships. We don't even know how to connect and talk and just hang out. These days, people can't even give you 5 minutes to hang out because they're. But you know what they can give for an hour or two? TikTok, Instagram.
Not an hour, hours.
So that's the sad part. That's the sad part.
Yeah. You find that even in relationship, like they don't, when you're dating somebody, you don't even have that time together to bond, to become friends because you're all on your phones. You're busy. Like even when you're on a date, everybody is on their phone and they're like, okay, why did you even meet? We're not even talking. We're not even having a conversation.
And that's because people honestly don't know how to. It goes down to technology.
Yes.
People have lost the ability to conversate.
Ability to communicate.
There you go.
Yeah. And what role, and I think that's communication plays a major role in
Yeah.
a relationship. What are the like if communication plays a huge role, what role does it play and what are the foundations of a good long lasting relationship?
From communications perspective.
Yes, and you can add others.
Let me just talk about communication because there's so many. Yeah.
Okay. Communication perspective.
Yeah, let's talk about communication. Communication is a challenge because communication is not only what you say, it's what they hear. Communication is more about what they hear and what they understand and how that makes them feel.
What they hear, what they understand, and how it makes them feel. Okay.
So you might be trying to say something, but I'm hearing something completely different that is making me feel very different.
Why are
so
you hearing
so
something different?
there you go. Now you start to understand the weaknesses of our different identities. Because you may have an identity and you think you're an effective communicator, but to me, I'm like, man, I can't deal with you. And you're trying to talk, and I'm like, no, she's not a good listener. She doesn't understand me. So one of the things that even down the line, I'll talk about emotions, is that a lot of times you might find a hard time with a guy because you don't actually know how he hears. So he might actually not be hearing what you're saying. So you're saying one thing, but he's not hearing that.
But how do you know how he hears?
Now that's when you go into mentorship. This is why it's so important to know yourself. One of the things about communication that's important. I mean, for example, let me just help you.
Okay.
One of the simple things is just saying, what did you understand by what I said?
True.
And not only that, how does what I say
Make you
in this particular topic make you feel? That's when you really know what the person is saying. Because the person may be saying like, they may sound like, why is this person fighting me? But what they're trying to communicate is, you hurt me. You've made me insecure. You've made me 1, 2, 3. And so communication is more than just words and saying, oh, now I know how to talk to guys and this is what I do. But what are they hearing about you? Okay? Because what they hear about you has a lot to do with what you're presenting, your mannerisms, your behaviors, all these things. They are communicating everything. And we are all communicating all the time.
Yeah.
You can actually communicate that, you know what, I'm very single and I'm not really ready. You can communicate, I'm ready for marriage. You can communicate, I'm going to be a good spouse. You can communicate, I'm not really sure if you want to get into this. But you don't know what you're saying if you don't have, number one, the mentors who see you from the outside and can be honest with you and tell you, by the way, watch out for this, that, and the other, and you're humble enough to hear. Number two, by continuously asking the other person, how are you understanding me? And how do you feel when I communicate to you in these areas?
Okay.
Then that allows that person to say, by the way, when you say this, it's not really not that good. It doesn't make me feel good. Then you can start to understand, okay, what about how I'm talking? Because here's the thing. Let's say you're a great CEO.
Yes.
So you know when you talk, people follow and do things. But you're trying to date someone and you're talking to them like a CEO and they've left dealing with a CEO, and so they're taking your talk like you're trying to be authoritative here and you're trying to run me and all these things, and you're wondering what's going on with you, but your communication style is one-dimensional. Now somebody can say, oh, you know what, I'm not going to change myself. Well, then remain single. That's completely okay.
Wow.
You don't have to be in a relationship. If you're not good in a relationship, then stay single. But if you're a person who actually wants to have a healthy relationship, what you have to learn is how you communicate. Number two, also teaching the other person how you communicate helps, so that they don't take you the wrong way.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, by the way, that's not what I mean. Oh, really? Because this is what I thought you... No, that's not what I mean. You know, that I'm actually very okay. Oh, okay. Then they start to learn you. So part of it is you learning how to communicate in a way that your spouse or the person you are courting understands you. Understanding how you talk makes them feel. And then number two, teaching them some of your communication style, because they also need to grow. It's not like it's just you, right? And then eventually you come to learn that, okay, now now that's called maturing. But it's very hard. It takes a lot of humility.
But now that brings me back, because that you teach them when you're coding, right? What if you're in this position where, okay, I'm single, I'm waiting, I'm learning, I'm ready for marriage, but like you said before, you're like, maybe you're communicating that you're not ready, or you're communicating something different, and you're not even aware that you're communicating whatever they see.
Yes.
How do you change that?
See, you can't see that because you can't see. It's not like you're walking around with a mirror.
Exactly.
You know, you really need good friends. You really need good mentors.
Yes.
And you really need to ask for help. As you need to say, okay, how do I normally sound? I've told people, hey, by the way, when you talk like that, you are causing men to think you desire them. or you're giving the wrong message. Now, this person is innocently communicating body language and everything, and you're causing people men to think, because men are thinking something different. You are just trying to communicate different.
Yeah.
And so you're sending mixed signals. Now, somebody who's observing you, who's interested in you, sees that and says, man, that person is flirty. And you know what? I don't trust that person. So they move away because they don't trust you.
Yeah.
But you're just innocent, maybe. These are some of the realities. I'm just talking about communication.
Yes, yeah.
Right? People can say all the, but I think just on the single perspective is you need to, first, when you learn your actualized language,
Yes.
it'll help you a whole bunch. Right? So part of my coaching, when I coach someone, is I teach them the actualized language, because when you learn your actualized language, you'll learn how you communicate, and then you learn how people perceive your communication. Okay?
Yes.
You will learn also what type of a person you are. Because when you know the type of person you are, like for example, I'm a visionary actualized language person. What that means is, before I learned, one of my weaknesses and my strengths is I'm very transactive.
Yeah.
Transactive people are about, what are you giving? What am I giving?
Yeah.
What am I getting? What are you getting? What that means, there's very little room for that soft talk of like getting to, it's like, get to the point.
Yeah.
Let's get to the point, blah, blah. But guess what? Not everybody's like me.
No.
So if I'm trying to date someone, I'm going to frustrate everybody who actually will help me in life, who will do well with me in life, because guess what? I'm trying to talk transactively.
Yes.
And guess what? They're like, this is too transactive for me. So by me knowing that, then my part of my personal growth is to learn like, hey, by the way, you can be transactive in your leadership role, but you need to cut off some of that transactiveness.
Yes.
Because you gotta also be able to flow with the other person, because the other person is not transactive, they may be more emotive. So I gotta bring in that person, and that person also is learning some of my language. And it's kind of like, the best way I can explain it is, you are speaking Chinese, I'm speaking English. At a certain point, you gotta learn some English, I gotta learn some Chinese, right? And that's what a relationship is. But you gotta realize what you're communicating. So the problem is, people don't even know they're communicating Chinese, right? And that's what's causing you problems.
Yeah.
You keep on talking Chinese to everybody, and everybody's just like,
Looking at
like you, like, I don't really get you. And so you're like, but I'm trying, but you don't know how to express, you don't know how to communicate. And when you're communicating, I always say you want to learn, because when you're communicating with a man, you're going to learn man's isms.
Yes.
When you're communicating with a woman, you have to know a woman's isms.
Yes.
And this is part of growth. You also have to take it easy on yourself, right? And this is part of communication. And it's not only a challenge for singles, it's a challenge for married people. Because a lot of people get married as bad communicators. And then their solution is to yell at each other, on top of each other,
Yeah.
because none of them actually can communicate how they really feel. That's really the problem.
Yes.
It's just that none of them can really come down and say like, you're making me feel this way, or you're making me feel that way. So this person just comes and starts berating and yelling at the person, and the other person feels they need to defend themselves and begin to yell. And then now the communication is died. When all they are is, she's Chinese, you are English, and you don't speak the same language. You just don't know that. But the day you discover that you actually speak two different languages, you begin to solve your communication problems.
Wow. Interesting.
Yes.
This is quite interesting, and our time is up. So give us your final remarks on how we were talking about technology, this generation, communication, which went deep, especially on communication. It's a broad topic, and if you still have questions, please send your questions. Yeah, what are your final words of advice for this generation, and how can they solve conflicts, and also have that bond where all they know is technology? How can they learn how to socialize, because that is lacking?
Yeah. what I will say is, for this generation, one of the biggest things this generation needs is to know that they don't know everything. And that's okay.
Wow. Okay.
Number two,
True.
find community that has mentorship.
Yes.
Know that you need people. And that's important. And then number two, just learn that you have to grow. And give yourself that grace to grow. Don't expect yourself to be a great communicator on day one. Know where you are in reality. Are you a person who's supposed to be courting? Are you a person who's supposed to be getting into marriage? Knowing where you are, start finding people and community that will begin to prepare you. Stop dating in shadows. Date in community so that people can help vet for you.
Yes.
People can even help you like to actualize, right? So this is part of that process. Otherwise, do your stuff by yourself, then you're by yourself. So that's what I'll just say is like, look, we're not going to get rid of technology.
No.
We can use technology for our good.
It's actually advancing.
Yeah,
so-
yeah, we can use it for our good. We can use it in many great areas. I believe we can use it and we should use it
Yes.
properly and accordingly. You can meet a lot of people, but at the end of the day, vetting, both yourself and that person in community.
Amen. Thank
All
you
right.
so much. This
All
has
right.
been great.
Wow.
I know there's so much we can talk about on this topic, but our time is up. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Send those questions, like, comment, share, and see you on the next segment. See you soon. Thank you so much, Doc.
All right, bye-bye.